Welcome, dads, to the Dad 316 podcast. I'm your host, Lyle Foxman. Dad 316 is a unique platform just for you. This isn't just your typical podcast. I'm dedicated to designing a community specifically for fathers like you and me who enjoy bonding over WWE wrestling with their kids. Hello, my name is Lyle Foxman, and welcome to the Dad 316 podcast. Today I have on an awesome guest. My first guest, this is the first episode. I'm super excited. Mr. Patrick Stims, who is the 2021 DDPY Positively Unstoppable Challenge winner. And I'm going to start out with, what brought you to DDPY and how'd you find out about it?
Well, my life was in a tailspin in 2020 and the first part of 2021, and I needed to get my act together. I mean, plain and simple. And I had known about the DDPY or DDP yoga, whatever you want to call it, program for some time, but I wasn't taking advantage of it. And I found out about it through my love of professional wrestling. And I was watching the Royal Rumble, and Diamond Dallas Page made an appearance, and he was wearing a DDP yoga tank top. And it was incredible. I was just like, oh, I always liked Dallas. And I was sitting with my buddy, and I'm like, what is DDP yoga? And my buddy's like, oh, it's just this thing he does. And so I didn't think much of it for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden, I just found myself, it was about 2019, and I'm looking up workout programs and half-heartedly trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I came across the Arthur Borman video, and that video was so inspiring that I immediately bought the DVDs, and I got a yoga mat, and I got everything, and I was ready to go. And I did it for like 2 weeks and quit. You know, I wasn't ready mentally, and I used every excuse that I had not to continue on with the program, and life just got worse and worse. And finally, something clicked in my head, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I want to live my life. You know, I'm tired of watching everybody else live it. I got 2 kids, a beautiful wife, and I was tired of failing them and letting them down and not being a full participant in their lives. You know, I was at a point where I was looking at myself and telling myself all the time that my kids, my wife would be better off if I wasn't around. And it's horrible.
So in 2021, this all happened in 2021.
Yeah.
So what made, so you stopped, and then what was that mindset like shift that said, I gotta really do something? Like, I know you said you saw the Arthur video, and right. For those that don't know, what's the Arthur video, the Arthur Borman video? Right.
So on DDP Yoga's YouTube page, you can find, there's a couple of different versions of the Arthur Borman, and he was a military man. He did parachuting missions and stuff, and he was really in bad shape. He needed crutches to walk and everything, and he was about my size, almost 300 pounds, somewhere around there. And he just started losing weight, and he was walking. And then all of a sudden at the end of the video, he's running and just doing these incredible things. And he's a big part of the Relentless documentary for DDPY, which is really inspiring. And he has probably brought more people to the DDPY product than any one individual outside of DDP.
So what was that? What brought you back? All right. Was the pandemic a big part of it? Because I know it's 2021, we were in the middle of that pandemic.
Right. Well, 2020, I quit my job for personal reasons, and I had my own business that I had started at the beginning of 2020. And by March, we were sunk because the country was shut down. And so when I quit my job, though, I said, I'm going to focus on my business. And by November, it was, we were out of money. I was out of money, and we lost our house. Everything was just, like I said, it just snowballed out of control. And then we moved into this little apartment here. I went back to work by February, and it was weird. I went through this kind of transitional phase where I was really doubting myself and I was really upset at myself. But then just being at my new job, I was able to walk a lot. And you kind of get in your own head when you walk a lot. And but the thoughts in my head
it's like
started
meditation.
changing. Right. And I went from really negative thoughts to all of a sudden they started changing. I was getting tired of telling myself all the negative stuff. And so I started changing the story that I told myself during my walks. And then I started challenging myself with those walks. And just before Easter, I went to my wife and I'm like, I think I'm going to do this. I'm really going to make an effort to get my health in check, get my life back, and be the husband and father that I need to be. And DDPY became a big part of that process. And I pulled out the DVDs. I opened up the book, went to the schedule, and I created a spreadsheet and I wrote down the schedule and held myself accountable. And then went and I logged how many steps I was going to take every day, set goals, set weight loss goals, all kinds of stuff. And I said, I'm going to take pictures every week. I'm going to take videos, like every couple of weeks or at least once a month, no less than that. And that was the beginning of it. And after that, it was just kind of celebrating those small victories as I went and the success that came with all that. And I couldn't have asked for more support at home. My wife stood by me and was strong for me. There's a lot of people who don't know this. The week after I started, this is the most incredible part of my story. The week after I started, my wife lost her biological father. And that alone could have derailed all of this because our first instinct would have been to drown our sorrows with food and everything. But then 48 hours later, my wife lost her stepfather, who was more of a father to her than her actual father. So within just a couple of days, she had lost both of her fathers, and it was soul crushing. And again, it could have derailed everything. And the one person who stayed strong was my wife.
Yeah, having a great partner there it's amazing.
Right.
My wife also is a great partner. When we go through tough times, she's there to lift me up, and same thing, I'm there to lift her up when she's down as well. Right. So, at that time, you were at your heaviest. Where were you at your heaviest?
I was probably somewhere around 325 at my heaviest. When I moved out of our house, I was about 315. Just the moving process, I lost weight because it's a tough process, right? And when I started the journey officially on Easter Sunday, I was 296. So that was my official starting weight. And when I finished the 2021 challenge, which was a whole nother story, the 2021 challenge, I was 176. So I had dropped 120 pounds. Wow. In those 6 months.
So you lost that much in 6 months?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I found my magic formula.
What'd you do diet wise there? Because physical fitness is part of it, but you need the diet.
Diet is probably more important to weight loss or any health and fitness journey than even training, unless you're training to be an Olympic athlete or something. But for 16 weeks, I did very strict keto. And that turned my body into a fat burning machine. And it just was, It was really, really good. And you combine that with I also stayed at a caloric deficit. I started doing intermittent fasting at about 2 months in. And of course, walking every day, I got my steps up to like 30 to 35,000 steps a day.
And you track that every day?
Yeah. Yep. I used my Apple Watch to track all my steps and my calories burned and everything, my heart rate throughout every day. And then of course, 3 to 4 times a week, I had my DDPY at the time. And now it's like almost every day now. But it was and after 16 weeks, then I had understood I had to transition because keto was not going to be a long-term dietary lifestyle for me. And so I basically all I did was I took my macros, which was for keto is high fat, medium proteins, low carb. And I just swapped the fat and the proteins. And I went high protein, medium fat, healthy fat. I'm always stressing that, and low carb. And I've basically stuck with that ever since.
And was there a book that you read or a certain person that you followed with the diet?
There wasn't any person in particular. I just researched as much as I could. We did buy a few keto cookbooks that we still, I think we gave some to some of our friends and stuff. And, but I think we still have a couple of them. And of course I went online, utilized as many online researches as I could. But everything came back to just reading labels, understanding the macros, and buying healthy, fresh foods, and really falling in love with cooking, making my own foods, and not just buying prepackaged, processed crap, fast food. Right.
So I'm going to rewind really back.
Sure.
So when you were younger, were you a heavy kid? Were you like given bad habits?
Oh, bad habits were very early on. My mother, I mean, I'm not blaming, dude, let me be clear. I don't blame anybody. I've been through therapy where I've had a therapist tell me that, my father was to blame for this, my mother was to blame for this. And it's like, at some point you just got to take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, no, you got to, hold yourself accountable.
Right. So I'm not blaming anyone. Okay. My mother worked at Del Taco for years. I mean, I used to fall asleep on the Del Taco freezer, which is why I think to this day, I still need it to be cold to fall asleep.
And you have a fear of tacos.
Right. But I was addicted to Del Taco for years. And I haven't had it. It's one of my triggers. I know if I give in, it's going to like start things rolling. So I stay away from it. I haven't had it since 2021. But that didn't get me started because that's Del Taco every day. My father was like a lot of processed foods, a lot of prepackaged stuff. He didn't cook at all. And our fridge was barren most of the time. It was just, you just grabbed food as needed and didn't matter. But I was a heavy kid most of my life. And then once I got into high school, it was kind of yo-yo up and down. My adult life, it was like I would get really heavy. And at one point I did have an eating disorder. I was bulimic in my late teens, early 20s, and got down to about 160 pounds, like really light for me at that time. And then, once I got over that and I beat that, I mean, it's something that'll stick with me, and it's something I'll have to fight and work on my whole life, like any addiction, like smoking, drinking. And so the weight packed back on. I got married, and when we got pregnant with my first son, Seth, I gained more weight than she did. And I had like all those like sympathy things. Oh, I had them. Right.
Sympathy, pain, sympathy.
Right.
Cravings.
But it didn't help that my wife had the weirdest cravings, and it wasn't like weird as her. Like I've heard people have like, oh, I wanted pickle and mayo or some weird combo of things. My wife just wanted a little bit of everything. So I would leave work and know that it was going to take me about an hour to get home because I was going to have to stop at Jack in the Box for tacos. I was going to have to stop at Del Taco for cheese fries. McDonald's for parfaits. And I used to know exactly what I was getting everywhere.
You knew the routine. It's like bringing you to an unhealthy routine.
Yeah. And I would pick and eat as I'm driving home just because that way it didn't look like I was eating quite as much as her. But I definitely engaged quite a lot back then. And so I just kept packing on. And again, it was kind of yo-yoing up and down for a while. I found keto at one point, dropped about 50 pounds. And then I was in my hit and run accident where I was hit by an impaired driver, totaled my car. I was out of work for 3 months, and there went everything that I had put into dropping weight at that time. And because I never found anything that was sustainable. for me.
Right.
I wasn't in love with the workout program. I knew that keto wasn't a long-term solution, so I didn't plan on what to do when you weren't on it. The mental process wasn't
Mm-hmm.
there, you know.
Yeah. So now you went from unhealthy habits, DDPY, to bringing you back to having this more positive self-talk. How has that? Because this is a podcast about dads, right?
Right.
So how has this impacted you and your relationship with your kids, but also giving them the healthy habits and positive mindset, and being able? I'm sure you could do a lot more now. I know, like,
Right.
even since I lost weight. I lost about 30 pounds since DDP, and I don't have back problems anymore. I'm off certain medications now.
Right.
So how has that impacted, you with your kids and your wife as well?
Oh, it's fantastic. Like I said before, I was always living life on the sidelines. I was watching everybody else do stuff. And then all of a sudden I was participating. If my kids wanted to go to the park and play basketball, I was out there playing with them, not just
Right.
going like, hey, good shot. I wasn't afraid to get out there, and that was really impactful because now they're participating with dad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And my wife can take a break from time to time so that I can go play and everything like that. And the whole thing that I wanted to do was not just be there with them, but like you said, I wanted to give them an
Mm-hmm.
example. I wanted to be the father that my kids could look up to, because I was never that before. Even though I'm sure that they would tell you different. My kids would probably say, no, we always loved dad and we always looked up to dad. I didn't feel like I was living up to that. And I remember as I was going through my weight loss journey, I called my mom up because for my 60th, or for my mom's 60th birthday.
Got a little time.
Right. She went skydiving. And I called my mom and asked her about it and everything. And I'm like, what's the weight limit and all this other stuff? And she told me, and I said, okay. I said, I think that's going to be my big moment. That's where I'm going to show my kids, like, dad's living life now, not taking a breather, not just watching everybody else do things. I'm going to go out there and do it. And I'm going to do it the biggest way I know how. And that's jumping out of an airplane, and I did it. And it was the coolest moment. There's nothing like that feeling of falling, 10, 15,000 feet, whatever, however high up you are. It's unbelievable. And they're watching.
Did you do it with your mother? Did you jump with your mom?
She did jump with me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She was like, okay, yeah, we'll do that for your birthday. And then she's like, oh, I'm doing it with you. And I'm like, okay. It was really, really cool. And ever since then, it's like, trying to instill in them those values that I've now come to embrace fully, which is, take care of yourself now. I'm trying to show them, don't wait till you're 40 to make those changes in your life. Do it now so that when you hit 40, they're already habits and you're already living your best life. I don't want my kids growing up like I did for 13, 14 years with shoulder arthritis that's so bad you can barely move it. And if I shot a basketball before, I would have to be within 5 to 10 feet at most from the basket. Otherwise I couldn't even reach the basket with a shot. I couldn't play catch.
How long before you actually noticed the difference? Like, since starting DDP, you're like, oh, I'm really starting to feel better here. Like what was that aha moment? Like, wow, this is really working for me.
Well, when I knew that the program was working for me, I would say within the first month I knew it, because I was very a lot quicker than I thought possible. I was making improvements where I was already getting rid of the yoga blocks I was using within about the first month. But when it really hit me was there were things I hadn't even attempted because of the pain, and arthritic pain doesn't go away no matter what you do.
Right.
It's always there.
More of a medical.
Right. But it did alleviate pain for a short-term period of time. And my son and I went out to play basketball, and I just was shooting hoops without a thought, without a care in the world. And that hit me pretty good. And I was just kind of like, wow, like I'm doing this, like I'm here.
Yeah.
But I mean, when it really hit how powerful the program is, and I knew the program was great. I was already passionate about it. I became a trainer, I became a coach, all of that stuff. And I was fully invested. And I called Dallas one day and I said, I'm going to have the shoulder replacement surgery. I'm going to have the total shoulder replacement. But I promised him that I was going to show the power of DDPY through my recovery.
Right, because we've all seen like the Arthur video, but we've seen so many videos where people just start out with maybe bed yoga or chair yoga,
right,
and see that process and progress.
Yep. Yeah, I have friends that are doing that now, that I'm working with and helping. That are one friend of mine. He started on BedFlex, and he's a very dedicated guy, and he's got a lot of. I love his mentality right now and his work ethic. And after 2 weeks of BedFlex, he was like, I really want to try the chair. I really want to try the chair stuff. And I go, then give it a try. And if it's too much, go back to BedFlex. But he did the first chair workout this last week and just did amazing. He videotaped it and sent it to me and really did a great job.
Yeah, so
it's amazing.
I started doing, trying to get my wife on it, and she started doing the chair yoga. And,
right.
My
wife does it too.
Yeah, but she's starting to notice, like, when she does it, she immediately just feels mentally refreshed as well. It's not just a physical, lift. It's a mental lift after she does it. So it's great just to even get started there. So do your kids do that with you as well? Do they do the yoga with you?
My oldest son does more than my youngest. My youngest, who's over in the corner here being nice and quiet for me. He's a little more hesitant. He's 12. So he's a bit more into some of the things that he does with his friends and stuff like that. So with him, I'm more of like, I really just want you to be active, right. and if you didn't do something active today, then jump in with your mom or myself and do at least 30 minutes of DDPY, right. Something like that. And he will. My oldest, he trains no less than 5 times a week. Usually I'll let him slide on the weekend. But he also includes weight training because he's 15. He's about to be 16. And we kind of made a little deal because I'm still in the recovery phase technically of my surgery and everything. But I've been weight training. And I told my son, I said, I think, your goal should be to look, pretty good for your birthday, be proud to take your shirt off, go down the pool. And he goes, if I do it, you got to do it.
That's good. Good motivation. Motivate each other.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, deal. Because my birthday is in September. I got a lot longer to wait. Yours is in June. But yeah, it's real. I'm so proud to see them taking what I've done and finally being able to be that like kind of role model for my kids that I always dreamed of. Because my biological father, I didn't have that.
Right.
My biological father was a very abusive person. And again, I'm not blaming him for how anything I ended up here, but it's just truth. And here's like the little interesting, I think you and I talked when we were on the phone and I said, like, I'm not a chance guy. I don't believe in chance. I don't believe in luck. I believe in fate. I believe that things happen for a reason. My father was who he was so that I could be who I am today.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great quote because, I had issues with my father as well. So I'm there with you. So it makes you want to be a better father,
right.
You want to be the dad that you never had.
Right. And kids are so resilient, right? When I was a kid, I needed to find an escape from what I was dealing with, physical, mental, and all that stuff. And that's where wrestling came into play.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to get to the wrestling, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Hulk Hogan, the timing of everything in my life, right? You're talking about mid 80s. Yeah. Hulk Hogan, man. The good guy won in the end. And I needed to see that. You know, the bad guys could win some during the year, but then you got to WrestleMania season and you just knew. You knew Hulk Hogan was going to beat Andre. You knew Hogan was going to beat Savage. You knew Hogan was going to beat Roddy Piper, Sergeant Slaughter. The only guy he didn't beat was the Ultimate Warrior, but I was okay with that.
So I'm assuming Hulk Hogan was your go-to guy when you were younger?
For a long time, he was. It was like Hogan or bust up until about 90. And then the WWE introduced me to the Dead Man. And the Undertaker showed up, and I was just completely taken with that character. And the cool part was how he evolved over the years. And so I was able to evolve myself as you get older, and so did he. And I never lost interest in that character. There's a lot of guys where like Hogan would get stale after a while. Certain characters would get a little boring and they would need a complete revamp. That never happened with Taker.
No,
I always just loved the guy. And I'm still one of those though. As much as I love him, as much as I love the character and his in-ring work, and I loved his appearance at WrestleMania 40, which you went to.
Yeah, I know.
Which is awesome.
I got lucky, especially that second night, which is when I was at. I mean, at the end, me and my son, we were just up cheering. I mean, you had The Rock come out, and then you had Seth come out first, and then you had The Undertaker, and
Taker.
That whole night was
TV,
amazing.
I need to ask this. So on TV, when the gong hit, I swear to you, on TV, the gong hit got the loudest pop from the crowd of that entire thing.
Yeah.
Am I wrong there? Because it sounded super loud.
It was. I mean, we were screaming so loud. It's like we were like shaking the because we were first row. We were up top. We were first row. We had the bars in front of us. We were shaking the bars. And you could just like feel the crowd as well. It was just like. It's just an amazing experience. I know you went to 39, right?
Right. Here in LA, SoFi Stadium, my boys and I, we took a trip. I've got it here. I can show you. So I brought my, I have to move stuff here. So I brought my DDPY belt with me. Wow. And so what was really cool is I was standing in line, or I wasn't. I was just sitting with my kids. But there was a line of people. And we were supposed to record all the champs were supposed to record a happy birthday message for Dallas. And I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, but I'm here at WrestleMania. I got to figure something out at WrestleMania. And so I quickly ran over to the line of about 50 people. And I go, hey, you guys know who Diamond Dallas Page is, right? And they're all like, yeah. And I'm like, I need everybody in this line to wish him a happy birthday. Just everyone at once. I'll cue you, and we're all going to say happy birthday to DDP. And so that's what I did. I got the whole line to shout that. And I probably talked to about a dozen people who saw the belt, who didn't recognize what the belt was. And then they're like, what's this? What is this? And you want to talk about DDPY? I'm more than happy to do that. Let's talk about DDPY.
Yeah. You know, so it was cool. It was amazing. When I was at WrestleMania, we went to the Superstore. So I'm walking around the Superstore. I must have seen 5-6 people I have the 100K shirt.
Yeah.
So I must have seen a dozen people with the 100K shirt.
That's cool.
I've seen minimum of 5. So, to see so many fans there, and then I felt like I was part of like a community when I saw that.
Right.
It was like, it felt really good to say, I wanted to stop people, but we were just so into the moment. I was like, hey, DDP.
Right. Well, what's kind of crazy is I've noticed that the majority of the people that I've seen in DDPY tend to come from the Midwest and the East Coast. There's not nearly as many, which is crazy when you think about like how kind of, I live here in Southern California, but how body conscious so many people in like Orange County, LA County are. We're not far from Hollywood where they're overly self-conscious about stuff. So but down here you can't escape. There's a fitness center every couple, we have as many fitness places as Starbucks down here. So, but to think that DDPY isn't a huge thing down here is kind of weird.
But do you think that's because I think a lot more with wrestling fans might be from the Midwest or might be from the East Coast.
Oh,
so
big time.
Right. So, I mean, that would make sense, I think, that, hey, we have wrestling fans here. Of course, they're going to know what DDPY is versus, SoCal, and, they might be more into like the hottest person, on social media that's doing fitness versus,
I don't
DDPY.
fit in California very well. I'm wearing a Cleveland Indians jersey from the movie Major League. So it's a Rick Vaughn jersey. Yeah. You don't see many of these in SoCal.
Right. They're probably, what is that?
Right. Like the things I I don't like surfing. I'm actually literally afraid of the ocean. That's, like if I go on a cruise, it takes me about 15, 20 minutes to get used to the fact that I'm on a giant boat on the water. Right. So no surfing for me. I don't like going to the beach because that's where the ocean lives. I do love water parks though.
Yeah.
And California is good with water parks, but
New York has, we have a lot more water parks than
and water parks
over the past few years.
Right. Yeah. But I don't you can tell I don't tan. Right. I don't fit in with I think I would fit in a lot better. I lived in the Midwest for a year. I went to college in Illinois. There's a college out there called Concordia River Forest. It's a Christian college out there.
Right.
And I got along really well with the people in the Midwest. I don't know what it was, why we clicked so well, but I've always gotten along much better the further east we go.
But how does it feel now to go to a water park and take your shirt off? I'm sure before when you were heavier, you really didn't want to take your shirt off. I know when I was the heaviest, I really didn't want to go to a water park or a beach or, or to a pool.
I don't think about it anymore. Because the honest truth is when you're as big as I was, your self-image, and I just did a whole show about this on my radio program, but the whole deal is when you've been that big for that long, that's kind of how you see yourself. And you have there's a lot of issues that I still have to this day, if I'm being honest, and I work on them every day. I look at myself in the mirror and I tend to point out all my flaws instead of celebrating the successes that I see. And that's an issue. It's a mental issue that I have to conquer, and I will conquer it. It's just, it's going to take time. Yeah. But
you're retraining your brain. You're retraining your brain to go along with, how you feel on the outside, how you feel on the inside.
I don't go to the pool here where we live, and I don't run down there, take my shirt off and be like, yeah, check it out. I would love to be at that point. But at the same time, I don't mind not being that kind of person. I also like being I like staying as humble as I can be. I like showing the belt just because I'm proud to be a part of a great group of champs and everything like that and celebrate that. I let other people celebrate me more than me.
Right.
Right. Like my mom, I'll show you this. My mom is so awesome. My mom made this for me after I became a DDPY champ. She had this made. And then we also had this made.
It needs a little belt.
Which is I have my own Funko.
Oh yeah, I've seen those too.
So he's got a yoga mat, and the only thing we didn't think to do was I couldn't lift weights back then because of my shoulder. So we put headphones in because of the radio stuff. And I like to record, as you talked about, I like to sing and record and stuff. So we did the headphones instead. But really, I mean, like I said, I try not to celebrate me and think, oh, look at me. So if you see me posting on Facebook, you'll notice there's kind of a thread here where it's I'll say what I'm doing, but I'm trying to say it in a way that helps you, the reader, that maybe inspires you to go out and do something that maybe you didn't think you were capable of doing, or even on my personal Facebook page. If I have something that's bothering me, I usually don't like sharing anything negative. But if I feel like I need to, it's because I know how to end my post with something that has hope in it. So if there's something negative that's going on in my life, it's okay, here's what I'm going through, just to give you guys, my friends, my family, a heads up. But it's all going to be okay, right? I have hope for tomorrow. Today's just another day. It will pass. And I don't believe in failure, right? I don't believe in that. I believe that every time we fall down, it's just an opportunity to get back up.
So how do you put that message onto your kids to have that mindset, right? We want our kids to have a positive mindset,
Right.
especially when going through hard times. We know, we all, I'm sure they're going to have loves that they lost and, hard times as well. We see the news every day, it's a different world that they're growing up in today.
Right.
So how do you give that positive mindset to them?
Well, my oldest son, very luckily enough, my oldest son has already developed that. He is one of the kindest, most giving, and understanding human being that I have ever met in my life. And I've told him that to his face. This man, and I'll call him a man, he's a young man, but he will give with no thought of receiving in return. And so when things don't quite go his way, he doesn't get down about it. He doesn't get frustrated about it. He just figures out what went wrong and corrects it. And he has told me that part of that is learning from my mistakes as well as watching me succeed through the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
So that's been great. My youngest son, who's 12, really went through a pretty bad phase of looking down on himself and talking down on himself. And that's something children don't just become this. Right. They learn these habits from their parents. And my wife and I both are kind of to blame for that. And so one thing that I did to help correct him on this, and it's been working very well thus far, is I have him journal a lot. I want him to journal at least throughout the week, Monday through Friday. And what he does is anytime, whether it's his own head or whether it's somebody else, makes him feel less than, that he needs to write it down in his little journal. Right. And then he needs to flip the script and write down the exact opposite. So if someone made him feel like he's not good at playing basketball, he needs to flip the script and say something like, it doesn't matter if I'm good or not at basketball, I enjoy playing it. Or he could say, I am good at basketball, I don't care what anybody else says. As long as you flip it from the negative to the positive. And if there was nothing that made him feel that way that's a negative, then write down the most positive thing that happened to you that day.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the power of yet?
No. Oh, yeah. Yet. Yeah, I heard.
So I'm not good at basketball. Usually people end it into negative, but if you add the yet in,
right,
it turns into more of a positive, and
Yeah, Christopher Seals. So 2023 DDPY Grand Champ. He was just on my show this morning. Great guy. Love the dude. He loves the word yet. And so he's kind of he does little graphic designs and stuff like that. And he made this one of the diamond, and he had a bunch of quotes in it. At the very bottom of the diamond, in the biggest font, it says yet. And we have that posted up in our restroom so that we see it every morning when we get up, and it's right there in the mirror to remind us, and it tells it. I think about it every day. So this week I changed my weightlifting schedule because I was feeling so good with my shoulder recovery that I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing 3 days on, 1 day off for weight training, and then do something DDPY related every day. And so I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday weight training, and I'm a high intensity guy. I'm safe, I'm smart, but I'm high intensity. I don't do things halfway, right? Well, this is the first time I've done 3 days in a row of weight training in a long time. And so I started feeling a pinch back here at the back of my neck and towards the upper lats and the rotator cuff.
Right. So you got to take that break.
All of that was just repaired with the shoulder replacement. So I took my day off on Thursday, like I was supposed to, but I didn't do a DDPY either. I just sat on that recliner over there and I iced my arm for about 3 hours, just on and off. And then on Friday, I was like, okay, let's get back into this. And I usually do 8 exercises every day that I train. I got through 4 and I was done. My whole body was exhausted, and my arm, this whole part here that I talked about, was just throbbing. So I was like, I got to stop. And I did. I stopped in a way. I still did core. I still did another 30 minutes of ab workouts, but I stopped with the weight training. And today we got done with the show, and I pulled my wife aside and I just said, you know, no matter what happens, I always have to think smart with my shoulder. And I think this applies to anybody and everybody out there who's going through this kind of a journey. And I just said, I'm going to take today off at minimum.
Without feeling guilty.
Right. I'm like, I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but I need to let you know, because she holds me accountable. I tell her what my schedule is. And I pointed out why. And she said, nope, I wouldn't let you if I knew what you were feeling. Because I try to be the tough guy from time to time, but I can't do that with this, because I don't want to go back under the knife anytime soon.
Well, I mean, I know I've been doing the power cuff, so starting in January, I gave myself a little bit of a challenge, which was not to skip a day.
Right.
And my go-to, even if I don't do a larger one, like a 45-minute or 30-minute one, I'll still do the wake-up one. Because the wake-up I could do consistent every day.
Right.
You know, even if it's 11, 12 minutes, it's better than no minutes.
Yeah.
So I've been doing cuffs. So I started doing the power cuffs maybe about 5 months ago, like when I started a little bit more. And I know during the videos that they say do every other day, so you give a body a rest from the weights.
Right, especially because they do push-pull. Right? You can't do push-pull on consecutive days. Right. Because, like you said, because rest. Because if you pull down for a back exercise, let's say you do a lat pull down, you're also training the bicep when you do it. So if you then do the biceps and triceps the next day, you're overtraining the bicep, and you're ruining its chance of recovery. So when I do a 3-day on, 1-day off thing, I don't do the workouts on the app. I use those to work myself back into training again after surgery. So I do what I call my overload phase, which is day 1 is chest and triceps. Day 2 is back and biceps. Day 3 is shoulders and legs. And that gives me the ability to hit every individual muscle group without having to worry about another one on the next day. And then I get plenty of rest and recovery time for each muscle group.
So when did you go from, following, strictly what DDPY, his, program versus, just starting to take his exercises and making them your own into your own type of routine?
Well, the DDPY workouts themselves, I started customizing them for myself when I became an instructor. And I did that out of necessity, because then I could really control what positions I was putting myself in, what movements I did because of the shoulder before surgery. After surgery, I didn't really do as much customization. I just did a lot of stand-up stuff so that I wasn't going down on my arm, putting any weight on my arm. And then I just worked my way down. And now I enjoy doing more of the stuff that's on the app, because there's a lot more content that's being released now than back in the day, because now the PC's doing more public workouts and stuff. But when it came to the power cuff stuff, I did the power cuffs for, I want to say I started doing them around probably like right at the beginning of December. And I started off literally just doing dynamic resistance, because you can't lift weights on a new shoulder and right away. And then I just started, then I added like a 5-pound dumbbell, then added a 10-pound dumbbell, and just worked my way up. But the thing that I found out, because I wanted to build muscle as much as possible, and the DDPY workouts, especially for my age at 43, they move a little too quick for me. And I'm not putting them down or anything, but the 30 seconds in between sets,
it's not enough time.
It's not, because especially if you're like me, and like I said earlier, I'm high intensity. So every set that I do is going to take my muscles into hypertrophy and get as close to failure as possible. When you do that, unless you're 20, you need more than 30 seconds in between those sets. So I can do what they do If I do those 6 exercises, it's not going to take me 35 minutes. It's going to take me an hour.
Right.
If I usually give myself about 10 minutes per exercise, and that allows me to let the muscle recover, get oxygen back in there. I still stay occluded with the power cuffs, but it just allows me to make sure that I have the ability, at least, to give everything I have into each and every set that I do.
Right. That's awesome. So I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure.
So, to start wrapping things up, what would you tell the dad that's going through a tough time, that might be, heavy, or, out of shape, or even just, maybe he's not in terrible shape, but he's going through a hard time, in life, going through, problems that they might have, and, what would be the advice on, how to change that mindset and get started with doing that?
My thing that I try to tell people is, how important is it being a father? Because being a father should be right up at the top of that list of things that are important in your
100%.
life. Your children should be the most important things. I mean, you can have it be, depending on what you can have it be God, number one. That's fine. But then number two better be your wife and kids, man. And if you truly love your children, which I don't think that's a question, but I'm going to say, if you truly love your children, for them and for you, wouldn't you want to be there for every single moment?
Yeah.
Life goes by fast enough. Don't speed up the process by living an unhealthy life, because then you're going to miss out on so many things. I missed out on too much already. I want to live to grow old with my wife. I want to live to see my kids have kids. I want to see my kids grow up and do those things that I neglected to do for myself because I was an idiot and I didn't do the right things growing up, But again, those things that I didn't do, if I had done them, I wouldn't have the family that I have today. So I can't regret any of it.
What about the things that, like, you can't control? Like we can control what we eat and how.
Right. Right.
But what about, the dad that's going through a job loss, or the dad that's going and they're in that depression mode because they're going through those things?
So Dallas has a thing that I learned from him, that was, life is 10% what happens to you, and it's 90% how you react to it. There's always 100% of the time, there is always another way of viewing life.
That's great.
When something bad happens to you, there is a way, and this is why people call me annoyingly positive. There is always a way to spin it, so that you start to see things in a different way. Yeah, losing your job sucks. I've been there. Losing your business sucks. But if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't gone through all the negative that I went through, I might not be sitting here today talking with you.
Yeah.
I might have wasted away, because it wasn't until everything went south and I had the opportunity to learn and grow and get better that things changed. And the last thing is, the best piece of advice that I give to people is, learn the difference between control and discipline. People like to interchange those two words.
And what is the difference?
Okay. Control is something that you take, right? Or it's something that can be taken from you. So food can have control over you. Nicotine can have control over you. Alcohol can have control over you. Or you can take control of your addiction, right? You can take control of a situation. But how do we maintain it? Through discipline.
You have that
right?
Consistency.
You can't have discipline without control. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so like,
no,
if you're
100%,
if you're addicted
my
to
brain's
food,
thinking about it. I just
right. If you're addicted to food, there's no such thing as discipline, because what are you disciplined about? Eating bad? Right? You have
There
to
is no
take
discipline.
No, you have to take control. And that's where I tell people a weight loss journey, any fitness journey, it's up here. It all starts up here. And you have to make that decision. You can't force somebody to change their life. You can't force a situation. They have to accept that this is what it's going to take to be successful. And when you make that decision, I've never heard a single person regret it.
Yeah. There's actually Jocko Willink book called Discipline Equals Freedom.
Yep.
So just the name of the book alone tells you what that book is about.
Right.
Right. So just to wrap it up, 2 more things. Who's your favorite wrestler right now and why? And also give me a little bit of your where we can find you online, your radio show, social media, etc.
Sure. That's a tough question, by the way, because my favorite right now, all right, is probably going to be this guy right here, Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes.
I love Cody. I've always liked Cody, but when he returned, I saw him in AEW one time in Georgia, and he did the flaming table spot. I was there for that. But when he came back to WWE, there was something really special about that return. And I have found myself getting into Cody so much now. And his story was so good that my wife is now a fan. I love AJ Styles. I think that Drew McIntyre is doing the best work of his career right now as a heel. And this guy too.
CM Punk.
CM Punk. I really am enjoying CM Punk stuff. I think he's finally like to see CM Punk look like he's actually having fun is something I haven't seen in years. Yeah. And it's really nice. I love that kind of thing where somebody.
It's funny. I never thought he was going to come back. I mean, even my son kept saying he was going to come back. I didn't believe him. So, I mean, right now, me and my son are loving Jey Uso. Right. And
yeah.
I mean, we saw him in Madison Square Garden for the holiday show. And even at the end, like he just outworked everybody at that show. I mean, you could see it. And even at the end, CM Punk came out and gave him his flowers. Like CM Punk could have said anything he wanted, but he just, said Jey Uso was like the hit of the night. And even he saw the potential in what Jey Uso could do. And even Backlash, when Jey Uso came out, like that crowd just lit up their phones. Awesome. And you could see that crowd just going wild for him. I think he's got a great future, and I really hope to see him more doing his own thing instead of going back with his brother and doing tag team stuff. I really like to see them make a true champion out of him because I think he has that potential.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And then as far as what I'm up to, so you can find me. There's multiple places. So in terms of Facebook, we've got For You Productions. And we've got the For You Health and Fitness. So you can find me on both of those on Facebook. You can also find For You Health and Fitness on Instagram. And For You Productions is actually at For You Entertain. That's the number 4, the letter U.
So it's an ask.
Entertain. And the number 4, letter U, Health and Fitness. And that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And then on YouTube, we've got 3 pages. We've got For You Productions, For You Entertainment type of thing. We've got For You Health and Fitness, which is brand new. And, of course, we've got our highlight YouTube page for the Positively Pat Sims radio program, which is the greatest Saturday morning radio show on the planet. And we air on internet radio on WANT, which was started by fellow DDPY champs Ken Doors and Wushu Wendy. And they invited me on. I was the very first show to air on WANT. I'm very proud of that fact. And we air every Saturday from 6 a.m.
I'm going to make that a regular on my Saturday.
Oh, you better. No,
6 a.m. to what?
6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. We're a variety show. So we have a theme every week. So this week we did underrated movies. But we do inspirational shows where we interview champs. We do comedy bits, comedy sketches. We did a recreation where I did the majority of the voices, but I also had family and friends on, and we recreated the War of the Worlds last year for Halloween.
Awesome.
We're going to be doing a lot of stuff like that. We play music. We also do live streams on Facebook and YouTube so that we can be as interactive as possible. I wish that's what I did for a living.
Sounds like you have a fun
life.
To
be honest. Oh, it's a busy one though. Like,
yeah.
I'm nonstop, man.
What about if somebody wants to hire you for a coach to be a DDPY coach?
Yeah, they can go to ddpyoga.com, and under the program section, you'll find the fast track coaching program, and just go to select a coach, and you will find me there, Patrick Sims. I right now I'm like third on the list. If you do the featured one, it's Pam, and then it's Dr. Tom, who is my mentor.
Right.
Dr. Tom
awesome.
Whalen.
I do a lot of his workouts.
Yep. And then you got me right underneath it, and I'm doing the diamond cutter sign right there. And it's a great way to really get invested in the DDPY program. If you're struggling with accountability, if you're struggling with what do I do? How do I do it? I need help with nutrition. I need inspiration. Maybe you just need somebody like I said, who's annoyingly positive. To when you're having a bad day, you just need somebody that can turn that switch and help you turn things around. And that's really kind of my thing that I really like to do. Yeah. Yeah. I don't like seeing anybody look at things in a bad way. I like showing them there's a different way of seeing things.
Yeah. And we see that with DDP, I see his messages every day, and it's just great, to follow him and be part of the Facebook group. I mean, the DDPY Facebook group is just amazing to see transformations and people feeling positive. And it's usually the social media world is negative, and but that page, I love going there because I just love seeing the positivity and the support by the DDPY community. It's just amazing support as well. You could show a picture and people root you on. Yeah,
it's great. It is the greatest community on Facebook, on any social media platform. And you said it. That's why. There's no bashing each other. There's it's everyone coming in to lift each other up. That's why I joined in the first place. I joined the DDPY and the challenge. I didn't join to win anything. Right. I didn't join to win a belt. I didn't join to win the challenge. I joined because I needed that motivation and that inspiration and accountability, to lift me up, to take me to new heights. And so the championship thing, that happened.
Just the cherry on top.
Right. That just happened because I guess I showed them that I was the real deal. And they're looking for people to represent DDPY, and they saw something in me that even at that time I hadn't found it yet. Right. But hopefully I've made them proud.
You make all of us proud, Pat. You're a great role model, to other dads and your kids, and I really appreciate you coming on and giving me your time, because time is our currency.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
All right, sir. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Like us below and find us online at Dad316.